This is the North End. This is the North End.
Welcome to the North End podcast and YouTube channel. I am blessed with only one lovely human today. It's a quiet one here at the North End, but the best one. I'm going to just give Paul some props here. Paulie, how are you, buddy?
I am the best one. Thank you for noticing. It's important that when we hang out with those other guys that you identify I am better than them.
Yep.
And that they all generally are nice guys, but
Well,
they're not
when you show up regularly, that helps. You know, it's a positive.
I mean, attendance alone, I'm better than them.
Yes,
but
yes.
That's about it. And you know what? There's at least two new guys on the show that I am better at knowing names of cities, players, countries.
You've improved it. You've improved in that aspect of your of the podcasting / YouTubing. You now do not look as silly when you.
I always liked
badly.
looking a little silly. I always kind of did a little bit lean into that. But when two guys came on the show who are not doing it in remote, deliberate ways and are just like JP California will say Lille instead of Lille. I'm just like, no, we can't all do that gag.
It can't be everybody. Yeah, you've stepped up your game now. You're no longer the guy who mispronounces the words. You're
you think I stepped up my game. I think I lost the bit that I was having fun with for a long time that I can't do anymore.
Oh, all right. We're calling it a bit. Whatever you want to do, call it a bit if you want. Lots of football, some Champions League games going on right now.
You know what's weird, man? Did you have Dazen issues today?
I didn't. I only literally just watched a little bit of football before we came on.
Oh, my gosh.
I was working today, so I didn't have a chance to watch. What was going on? Is it
so DAZN, for those of you guys who are outside of Canada, is this great streaming service that gives us all the Premier League and Champions League games. And today, every time I logged in to watch a Champions League game, every single time it was giving me issues. And then I went on Twitter, and Twitter was blown up with Canadian issues for DAZN.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't experience that, but I probably wasn't on long enough to experience that. So that's probably a good thing. I would have been really annoyed because man, when it happens when it's Spurs, I get so frustrated. I'm just
my God,
man, I pay for it. I pay a lot of money for this. It's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's cheap, but I pay for this, and I want to make sure I can watch my games. You know,
I've been really lucky so far that those things don't happen well.
You know what I do? I do
my
like
United games are on, but
yeah, I do like one thing that DAZN have added is the beginning of it where it says watch from the beginning or watch live. They now give you the choice, whereas you used to be like, if you wanted to see the score, you had to like close your eyes and scroll.
The wild thing is that's the button I've been demanding from them since the start, so that I don't accidentally see my score halfway through the game.
Right.
I don't have that button on any of my devices yet. I know it exists on other people's devices and their interface has that button. I have not got that yet on any of my apps and my interfaces. Yeah, it's wild.
That is wild, man. You need to get it because it is handy as fuck. I've had games where I've been like, don't look at my WhatsApp, don't look at Twitter, don't find out any of the scores, and that pops up, and I'm like, watch from the beginning, and I don't have to. Yeah. It's fantastic. So thank you to DAZN for that. If you're watching, all right, you want to get into some footy there, fellow?
A wild weekend of football.
All right, we're gonna bring it up. I just want to thank StreamYard too for adding this new slides thing to the interface. It's quite nice and clean. So here's what we got. Over to you, Paul.
StreamYard, you're just getting better and better.
Better and better.
One day you'll sponsor us. That would make no sense. Why would StreamYard sponsor you? It's like the last thing they should do is sponsor a YouTube channel. They already do so much for YouTube. Let's start with what I thought was the biggest shock result of the weekend. Chelsea lose their second game of the season, ending an 8-game unbeaten run, 3-2 to West Ham. Whew. Crazy. Benjamin Mendy, I think, is largely responsible for a
worst game of his Chelsea career, would you say?
I think probably, but on the heels of a couple of games. Tuchel talked about him having a confidence crisis or crisis of confidence after the fact, which is pretty obvious when you see the way he's been playing. The ball at his feet, he seems like he's a child now with the ball, whereas before he looked like Lionel Messi. Now he looks like he's just
very strange, isn't it?
He's never touched it before. Interesting factoid: in 53 matches in charge of Chelsea since Thomas Tuchel took over at Chelsea, this is only the third time they've allowed more than one goal.
That's an absurd stat. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Crazy. Crazy. I don't want to bury the lead here. It is very well done by West Ham. West Ham I think were a bit fortunate in the poor performance of Chelsea, but they put in a shift. Like definitely did what they needed to do to get those 3 points. And I would say this is the biggest shock for me for the weekend. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the last game that wasn't on the weekend, the Monday game, was also pretty surprising, but also a wonderful match. The winning goal was a bit of a fluke too. It was meant to be a cross and then went in, but still, I think West Ham were the better side, so deserved the win.
Less exciting of a game is Newcastle versus Burnley. Newcastle and a 14-game winless streak with Callum Wilson goal marking Eddie Howe's first win at Newcastle since taking over the club. This is significant largely because it means now that Newcastle, Burnley, and Norwich are all tied at 10 points at the bottom of the table. These are the kind of points that get you out of relegation down the road if you can steal some points off of your bottom dweller clubs. But for me, this is like, Newcastle still did not look good. I mean,
yeah, they're struggling. They're going down. I mean, it is an inevitability. And it's going to be glorious when it happens. But getting their first win was, obviously massive for them to finally do it in December.
Some sort of momentum there, but like such a sad state of affairs. So last time we talked, I think we talked about Newcastle possibly buying their way out of trouble. And I think I was very glib about they'll have the money to buy themselves out of this, whatever. There are now reports coming out of England that clubs are refusing to do business with them in January.
Yeah, I think 14 of 14 Premier League clubs have said they won't do business with them, which is it's kind of insane, but also hilarious, I have to say.
It's just like I don't know what to do, but they're such a big club. I don't necessarily want them to go down, but at the same time, it's hilarious.
Oh, I absolutely want them to go down. I think with that ownership and the amount of money that they have, I think it's a little bit a nice result after what we've all thought was going to happen. How shit it's going to be with another club that's got that kind of money.
Yeah, and if it all starts with this win against Burnley, I would be I would be surprised if I'm honest, but who knows? Let's go to maybe a predictable result. I don't know anymore. I have a hard time with this. 1-1, and it's a classic. Neil Maupay scores a 98th minute equalizer to save Brighton the point. Brighton now are winless in 10 games, but so many draws across that. And this late winner is just increasingly a thing that Brighton seem to do.
Yeah, they struggle in front of the net too, and it was a fantastic goal, but they had once again have created so much and get so in such good places, but can't get anything anything that like seems like it's a good chance, and then in the last kick of the game, Maupay gets a wonderful chance. He scores some incredible goals, but misses some absolute sitters on a regular basis. I don't get it. It's a strange one.
You just got to keep imagining what they would be if they had somebody clinical. He's good, but get somebody clinical, and they're a much better team than they are right now.
Absolutely.
If you dig into this though, I thought this was interesting. 50% of Brighton's goals on the road, the 89th minute or later.
That's bonkers, man. That's insane.
You can do it when it counts the most after the 89th minute, but you can't score the other opportunities that you get because they generate a lot of scoring opportunities. They
generate a lot of moments where it looks like they're going to, and then they either miss like a sitter or the ball that comes in isn't good enough. That final pass isn't there. So yeah, that's a great stat too, though, but a strange one.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. Kind of similar outcome. We go over to Wolves hosting Liverpool. Liverpool win the game in the 94th minute in a game I thought maybe Wolves had done enough to hang on. Divock Origi comes off the bench to score. He is now the top Liverpool scorer off the bench in their club history.
18 goals or something like that off the bench, I think. It's absurd.
It's nutty. I mean, of all the guys that quietly should probably deserve better than what he's been getting his entire career. Like, I had a guy from Man United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was very good off the bench, but he was given chances to start regularly. He became a bench player largely because of circumstances of his injuries and form and other competition around him, but he was given chances.
I don't know if you noticed this. Sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if you noticed this. And they were talking about this during the match. Is Origi, whenever he has started, he rarely scores.
No, he's garbage when he starts.
Yeah, it's the moments when he comes off the bench that's where you get the best out of him. So
totally.
That's I mean, if that's who he is and that's what he's good at, then then that's where you play it.
But that's the wild thing is like you would think by now he'd be like, well, I need to go start somewhere. I wouldn't be garbage everywhere. Like he can score. He can do the business someplace else.
Great goal too. Really good.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was such a, I mean, obviously I'm watching that game going, oh, wouldn't this be great if Wolves pulled out a draw? Wouldn't it be great if Liverpool lost some points just for the title alone? But 94th minute in what is one of those games that you have to win that game. You have to score that goal if you're going to be in the race towards the end of the season. So an exciting event for Liverpool and Liverpool fans, I'm sure. Again, not overly excited myself for that result because whatever.
Yeah, it's hard to get excited about Liverpool being good, but they dominated that game. I mean, and to be fair to Wolves, there was a couple incredible blocks off the line, and just it was a fun game to watch. But defensively, Wolves were amazing. So for them to lose the way they did, there's a little bit of that. Oh man, all the work they put in to get to that point, and then a goal goes in. So yeah,
I really thought they had done enough to deserve a point out of that. I'll tell you who didn't do enough. Watford losing 3-1 to Manchester City, who now go top of the table, surpassing Chelsea. This is a game where Pep Guardiola just flexed his team squad and made 5 changes from the team that beat Aston Villa in midweek, and it did not look at all
didn't affect them. Didn't affect them at all.
Not even a tweak of an issue. They looked like they were flying. Bernardo Silva looked amazing with 2 goals. He's now got 6 goals in the last 8 Premier League games. This wasn't even their A squad. They haven't even busted out their A squad yet. Like Kevin De Bruyne is coming off the bench.
To be fair to Silva, though, he is in their A squad now. He is their form player this season. He's been unreal, like just unplayable, incredible.
Oh yeah, no, he would be one of the guys that he did this lot. Like there have been times where he
goes through streaks a little bit, right? But this is I think from the beginning of a season, and also a player who's going to leave or wanted to leave. He said he came out and said it. He was looking for a transfer, probably because he wanted to play more, and then now he's playing more, and you're seeing what the fruits of his labor. He looked great, just a wonderful player and a great goal.
This for me was more of a, you're going to win 3-1 without having your best players out in the field. And they had 2 holding midfield players. They had Rodri out and they had Fernandinho out. And I was like, I thought maybe they had a chance. But no, they just got smashed. It's worrisome for me when I start seeing Man City play this way, and I realize that they're only going to get better.
And Paul, we've said it every season. We said it last year when they did the same thing. I think they were in like 8th or 9th at this time, or maybe it was end of November last year. And then they just put a run together. They won 14 games in a row, and they just took the league. And I think we're likely going to see that, but I do think Liverpool are going to stick with them. I think, I've been saying that Chelsea are going to stay. I think Chelsea were going to win the league. I think I'm shifting my position on that a little bit with the way Liverpool are getting the type of win they got this weekend and the way Man City are playing. I think it's going to be a 2-horse race between those two.
Oh yeah, no, I'm firmly in that camp and have been for a while. That's why I get so incensed when I hear things like Brian BD go, like they are miles away. Chelsea are miles ahead of like everybody else. And I'm like, what league are you watching?
Yeah, I think there's a tendency to maybe look at the results and what the results they've had against Man City, the results they've had in winning the Champions League last year. They have been a really solid team to sort of say, yeah, they're going to win. But I think we've seen it in the last couple of weeks, you're starting to see those cracks with Chelsea's defense and their keeper. And that is where Chelsea were really good last year. And I thought that would improve. And I thought that's why they would be right there in the conversation, but it's actually gotten worse. So I think there's reason to think that maybe not miles better, but sometimes people speak with exaggerating tones to try to convince people of things. So.
Yeah, they're a very good team. It just comes down to the reality of what Man City represent and what a fit and firing Mo Salah, healthy Liverpool squad represent. Like, they are just so goddamn good. And I really, truthfully, I hate saying that because it's a 2-horse race, and I don't like to acknowledge that sometimes because I prefer if we all have a chance.
I agree.
Not yet. So we go to Leeds hosting Brentford. Leeds equalized with a wild 95th minute equalizer by Patrick Bamford.
Bamford comes on from injury too. It's such a great moment for him to score that goal.
The wild thing from this game, really super entertaining across the pitch. Like, this was a great game. This is
very open.
Leeds putting on a show. Brentford putting on a show. It looked like a fair result to have a late winner. I was happy with just the entire watch of everything. But then at the end of the game, there's footage of the director of football of Leeds just losing his mind, shouting at somebody in the crowd or a bunch of people in the crowd or whatever it is.
I didn't see that.
Foaming at the mouth, having to be restrained and pulled back.
Was he at his own fans or at
I think it was his own fans. I think it was his own fans.
Oh, really? Eh?
And he was like just giving them like the shut up kind of thing. So I somebody must have been disrespectful to the effort they put out there, or talked some smack, or maybe thinks Leeds should be better than what
they've
they are
been pretty
currently,
shit.
but...
They've been pretty shit, Paul, this season, and I think we have to recognize that that's the case, and you're going to have fans. No, you are, compared to what we saw last season. They're bottom of the table or close to the bottom of the table. They're not playing that great. They're not scoring. They have a lot of injuries. They have reasons for it. So it's not saying that they're shit as a club or as a squad. It's just they haven't been able to play at the level that they wanted to because of it. And so I think if I was a Leeds fan, based on what they had done last season, I could see why some of them might be irate. Now, it doesn't mean you say stupid shit and yell at management and coaches, but that does happen. And so the Leeds director of football needs to relax a bit and stop.
We never know what was said. He might have been defending his coach. He might have been defending his players. He might have been
super inappropriate. Who knows, right? So and it could incense somebody. But yeah, I get if they're angry about the football because the results haven't been there for Leeds.
Right. But it's a weird way to come off what is an excited 95-minute equalizer. Like that's everybody should be riding high with even the point that they got, that it just ended on this like really weird, wild, ugly note. But I will say, I don't mind the passion of if the Leeds director of football has that much passion.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. If I was a Leeds fan, I don't mind what I saw. I mean, I wouldn't be bothered to. I mean, I guess it depends on if you're the fan who's being yelled at. But yeah, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I actually think something's going to come of it. More will have to happen, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So then we head over to Old Trafford. Man United beating Crystal Palace 1-0 with man of the match Fred scoring a goal
nice
from
goal.
Nowhere. This is the Ralph Rangnick debut in charge of Man United.
Can I ask you a couple of questions about this? Because I didn't get a chance. I watched the highlights and get a chance to watch the whole match. But did you? And I know it's one game, but did you notice immediately a difference in style? Because I know people were talking about that they saw, and maybe it's just that new manager bounce kind of thing. The players kind of stood up a little bit. So what were your thoughts on how that felt as a supporter of Man U?
It was definitely different. They lined up with a 4-2-2-2, which I had not seen. That means two forwards, which you kind of feel it. The pressing and pressing is going to be like this buzzword whenever Man United get like. And
I heard the energy levels were higher though. Like
nobody's going to review a game for Man United without using the word pressing moving forward because this manager is so associated with pressing.
Right? Yeah.
I don't think there has been as many balls won back in the final third of the opponent since Alex Ferguson retired.
I saw that statistic come up, but I forget the number that it was. I think it was the amount of passes into the final third for United was the most they've had since like the Ferguson era. Like, and if the number was like. No, this is a different stat. It was like 56 passes into the final third or something like that. It was an absurd number. I was like, holy shit, United must have been all over them. Like that's crazy and awesome for you guys.
But it's the amount of successful pressing in the final third number that kind of tells you, if you want to know what the game was like, that's where there's quantifiable. There was more buzz. There was more attacking in packs. I thought we had greater control of the game. Fred is clearly playing a more advanced role in the midfield,
which is probably better for him.
I think it's better for him, for sure.
Like defensive responsibility for Fred is kind of a silly thing to try to have. I would imagine, based on his sort of attributes, it seems like an odd one for me to have him play defensively. He's not physical, he's not strong. He has a passing ability, but I'd see him more further up the pitch. He's from my perspective, from what I've seen of him.
I disagree in that he is defensive in a different way.
Right.
If you're a double pivot and you're deeper, you tend to not have the opportunity to intercept as much. You tend to have to take guys on, so your tackling has to be really strong. And he doesn't have very long legs. He's physically not built as a guy who should be able to tackle very well. But he reads the game and he's very fast and he doesn't stop moving. So the further up the field, the more his his interception ability plays into it.
Right.
He more struggles with the ball at his feet and turning with the ball, double pivot. So even with his ability on the ball, he's much better up the field where he's taking it in more of an offensive kind of approach.
Yeah, it suits him
He's
more.
basically
for sure.
he's an 8.
Yeah,
he's an 8. And Ralph Ragnick has basically said, like, I play the system that works best for the players I have. So
which is what you should do as a manager, generally speaking.
Completely. I thought everybody who I kind of written off a little bit, like Fred, Delo, Tellez, I thought they all played really well. But it's so early. Crystal Palace seemed like they weren't really at the races, so it's hard to really take that much.
Have they fallen off a bit for you, Palace, recently? Because I think they've they lost. Was it Villa they lost against last week?
They've lost
midweek?
3 Premier League games in a row, and they're winless the last 4.
Yeah, statistically speaking, from a team, I think that we're, a few weeks back, we were, I wouldn't say praising, but certainly saying that, there's a difference in this Palace side that we hadn't seen, and that Vieira was getting something out of them. They look more creative. They look like they were just a better side. And I wasn't getting that from them. Like the last couple of games I watched have been like, Palace don't look great. So yeah, difficult for them. They've only got 3 wins so far this season. So they're 14th in the league. They got a lot of catching up to do and need to improve if they're going to get out of that sort of conversation.
Poor Stan is out there yelling at the TV.
Stan's the best. Stan goes from being like so pumped to so pissed off in a short period of time, which is kind of like most football fans, but he's particularly colorful about it.
It's not an envious position. Like tactically naive is maybe the expression he uses sometimes. I'm like, well, everybody going into this game would be tactically naive. Nobody knows what Ralph's.
Well, yeah. What are you coming up against, right? Yeah.
What are you preparing? And I think Patrick Vieira said something equivalent to that. For me, it was a refreshing game. I definitely like this man. Every time he's on camera and talking about football, you get you completely understand why his nickname is the Professor. He just speaks so well, and there's an elegance to it. There's an honesty to it, but it's all intelligent and it's all common sense. It's like that German common sense to it. So I am so far. I'm very optimistic.
Happy, early doors, but happy nonetheless. And
early doors. Yeah, but happy.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I only heard that there was a difference in the energy and the pressing and the passing was better, and it was like what Man United had probably been missing for some time as far as what they need to kind of go to that next level.
Yeah, it did feel that way to me. So crosstown in London, Lucas Moura's stunner gives Spurs a 3-0 win, keeping Conte's unbeaten run of 4 Premier League wins in a row. Not wins, unbeaten run.
3 in a row.
As a Spurs boss against the Norwich side that's played, and this is kind of wild, for the 3rd time this season, 5 players 21 years of age or younger is maybe a telling stat to what this Norwich side are all about. I don't know that you can play kids that just got promoted to Premier League and really accept anything but maybe the occasional 3-0 against the informed Spurs.
I want to be a bit fair to Norwich here because they actually played quite well, especially in the first 25 minutes, half an hour. They controlled the game. They had more of the ball. I think even possession, 41% Spurs, 59% Norwich. They were good. They played good football. They had control of the game in a lot of different situations. Well, they had control of the ball. I think Spurs had control of the game, the way they managed them having more of the ball. The counterattack was on, and that was massive for Spurs. And obviously Sonny's goal was huge. And just some of the patterns of play and the way we're playing now, you're starting to see a massive difference in the attack and the sort of the understanding of what he wanted the players in different positions, and they're still responding really well. Other than maybe Harry Kane, who still seems to be struggling somewhat with his shooting boots. But good result for Spurs, and it's fun to watch. Spurs 17 shots, 17 on goal. I mean that's compared to where we were a month ago when we didn't get a single shot on goal for 3 games in a row. It's a massive difference. It's nice to watch.
I bet.
Got my Spurs back a little bit. It's like, oh God.
I'm sure Aston Villa also feel the same. Aston Villa coming back from behind to continue the Steven Gerrard revolution. 3 wins of 4, beating Leicester, who are now 1 win in their past 6 Premier League games.
Struggling Leicester. It's pretty brutal.
It's just... They're terrible. Like some of the underlying stats of this is they have allowed the 2nd most goals in the Premier League, and they have allowed the most or 2nd most goals from set plays.
That's an odd one, and Vardy doesn't start in this game. I guess Roger's taking a risk to see what he can get out of some different players. But Daka, who when he first came in, scored a couple of really wonderful goals. Looked like a player. He is probably going to be quite good eventually. He's pretty young though. I think you got to play your best players in this game.
It's tricky.
It's a tough one. Like, depends on the style and what the shape you want to play. But this was a good game too. This was a fun game to watch. There was a lot of controversy. Obviously, we had some WhatsApp arguments with Simon from. I hope Simon's watching this. Shout out to you, Simon. I argued with you for the fun of it. I hope you don't mind. There's a couple controversial moments. That hand or that does he have control of the ball moment, which goal got called back initially. Of course, Villa. Ended up, it didn't matter anyways. They still won the game, but it was an interesting one because that how that is called based on what different referees think and how it's interpreted it's so specific, and so it can be interpreted in a different way. So I thought that was interesting, and that's why I was kind of arguing as a devil's advocate to kind of say, well, I mean, how do you know it's not in control? How do you measure control? How do you know that he didn't have his hand down on the ball and the ball wasn't going to move anymore if the guy comes in and kick it, right? It's hard.
That was such a wild flare of conversation for me because it really didn't feel like anything less than straightforward to me. I was just like,
what was your position on it when you say straightforward? What did you like? No goal.
Peter Schmeichel had the ball.
Yeah, and I that's what I thought too. But because of the rule itself says that a player can come in and kick it if the goalie has just made a save, they're allowed to come in and take a shot, even if it's perceived that he may have control. And then determining control that's where the sort of the gray area lies, is that
sure.
Does he actually have it because he's got his hand on it? Well, the rule does say that if his hand is on the ball and there's the ball and then there's the ground and there's nothing in between, that's how they define control. So no goal. So that was where that's what my position was, and I'll stand by.
No, I just even as we're talking about it now, I don't know why we are. I'm
just bringing it up because of the conversation on WhatsApp.
It was a really clear call for me. I mean, Peter Schmeichel had Kasper Schmeichel had his hand hurt in the process. Like, the follow through of the ball also caught through his hand. The rules are there to protect the keepers. Like, I don't know. And again, the biggest thing is the game ended 2-1 for the team that had the call disallowed. So why are we all talking about it so much?
But, yeah. I mean, the argument was during the game, so that was kind of why we talked about it so much, because they hadn't scored the winner yet. But anyway, we spent enough time on that. I just thought it was a funny chat. And
I'll tell you who got really involved in the next game: VAR.
Yeah,
VAR robbing Richarlison of 2 goals.
2 goals too, man. That the first one I agree with. I was, despite it being like very close, but it was, his body shape, and he did, I think, have a bit of an advantage in an offside position. The second one, though, you know what I want to throw this out there, Paul. I want to ask you.
Well, let me get into this first.
Go. But I want to ask you.
I want to be clear. We are talking about the game that ultimately Richarlison did score in, and to beat our friends Arsenal 2-1, which ends an Everton 8-game winless streak, handing Arsenal their second loss in a row in what was a game I think Everton probably deserved a little bit more than this, because the VAR calls, as we talked, they were so, I mean, they're the correct calls, but they were so fine that in any other day, Augusta Wynn could have pushed him onside.
Yeah, and so kind of just quickly, I want to point this out, and I want to see what you think about this idea. They talk about the lines and how they draw them, right? Shouldn't they, when they're thinking about the size of the line that they draw the lines the same size as the lines on the pitch? So they got the chalk, right? So this is on the second goal, both players' feet are on the chalk. If you take that shape or that size of line and you apply that to VAR all over the pitch, whether the ball's in or out, and that's what they do on a corner kick. It's got to be on the line. So if your feet are both on that line, the goal should count, because that's the thickness of the VAR line. But instead, the lines are way thinner, and it's a little toe, and it's like, come on, guys, like, can we just make it a little bit more? And I thought they were going to do that, but I don't see it as much as the lines being thicker. But I think they could do that, like apply it to the size of the line of the pitches of the lines on the pitch, make it as exactly.
I think they did make the lines thicker. I think they've actually gone back and said, these how many goals have been allowed this year, because it's
definitely better. It's definitely better.
It's better, but I think it just comes down to, like, once a call is tight, regardless of the size of the lines, a tight call will always be, oh fuck, really? Like when the margin is that small, no matter how big the lines are, there's always going to be fine margins. It's like,
if you make the line though, the thickness of the line of the pitch, then that's the standard. It's like I don't know, like in many anyway.
No, but like even if the line is super thick, if you are angel hairs over the line, the same reaction will be like, oh come on, you're just a little over the line.
I guess so. You're right.
What are we doing here? That's where everybody gets upset. It's just like, oh, it's so fine. Come on.
But in this case, both feet were on the line, and one was just a little bit further on that line. But if that line was what they used, then he would have been onside.
Totally.
For me, it should have counted. It was an absurd thing. But I mean, that's one of the first ones I've seen this season that has been that frustrating. So right. Watching was annoying, but great game to watch. This was a ton of fun.
Totally, and I want to call out a couple, like one specific player, because as we are get into our star player of the week, I want a special notion, a guy that made it to the short list and had a great game, Demarai Gray, with
what a goal,
rocket to win the game, and like almost identical before that, a rocket off the post to Richarlison to score the first. Yep. So he was unlucky not to have 2 goals this
coming
game.
off the bench as well.
Coming off the bench, and there was a number of other great performances this weekend, but I think our star man, our ISO Date star man of the week, has to be none other than Bernardo Silva.
Yeah,
he's having such a great season, but this is like a specifically very clear. This was his team, kind of like everybody around him was kind of just following his lead. 2 goals, 93% accuracy, I think that says. 6 ball recoveries, which is insane because he was just buzzing up and down the field. Yeah. He created 4 chances, and he has a very respectable 9.3 who scored rating this week, which is the highest of all Premier League players. So he's just where he goes when he plays this way. Like Man City just are on fire. I think Pep's basically going back on his word supposedly and not selling him like he agreed to is proving a masterstroke, because he still has this guy playing. He's not seemingly disgruntled. He's not upset by it. He could be looking at like say a Barcelona and going, I could really be helping that club and I could be playing all the time. And instead he's just kind of doing his business at the less sexy Man City, where he knows he's still subject to rotation, but
I think this is where we have to give Guardiola some credit as a manager. And I know that there's the Fraudiola thing, and we're like, he's never had a difficult team to manage. It is difficult to manage these types of players at this level and get them to stay convinced of the, like, you're going to still play for me. You're going to still go, even though you wanted to leave, I'm going to keep you at your will and against your will, and then you're going to end up having the best season of your life. That's something that I think Guardiola needs credit for, because it takes, I think, a special kind of manager to continue to get some of these, I would say fringe players, because he's never a fringe player, but some of the players that have to be through rotation to still get on the pitch and do what he's been doing this season, because he's bonkers.
The only player manager I've ever seen that I think is maybe the upper echelons, the best of the best when it comes to that kind of stuff, is a basketball player manager by Phil Jackson, the guy who managed.
Phil Jackson was brilliant. Yeah.
The Chicago Bulls, the LA Lakers, had stardoms and Hall of Fame players up and down, but he created dynasties where everybody seemed to get along, and even when they weren't getting along, they were buying into what he was saying, and the little cliques that they had in that clubhouse, it didn't matter because he had them all singing the same tune.
They bought in.
When they got on the court, it didn't matter. They all bought in, and the results were phenomenal dynasties, like 2 dynasties across 2 different teams.
Yeah, this is what happens when you do the thing I tell you going to do, and we will end up winning shit, and then they end up winning shit. I mean, that's what good managers do, right? And of course, they have money, and they're able to do it with the money and all those things that we all hate. But the manager still has to get the best out of the some of the best players in the world,
totally,
who are all competing to be a starter or to play regularly, get into that rotation and play a lot of football. So
yeah. And Pep's got it. He's got it.
All right, you want to roll on with the previews?
Yeah, this is going to be a great potentially great weekend for a few different races. The drop probably more so than the title. Games start on Friday, which is worth noting for everybody.
Yeah, especially if your fantasy
get your fantasy sorted.
Stuff in. I'm glad I noticed that because I would have screwed myself.
Totally. So Brentford start off by hosting Watford on Friday. This is the battle of the promoted teams. I can tell you honestly, I thought if Watford has played so much better under this new management that I am hopeful that we're going to see a resurgent Watford side because they just came off a run of playing Arsenal, Man United, Leicester, Chelsea, and Man City.
Yeah, pretty brutal run for them for sure.
And they did not do that badly considering. Like, they didn't get all the points, obviously, but they have had some showings where they looked pretty good. And I expect them to come out against the beatable Brentford and really start to showcase what they're all about. And I really hope to, because I think Claudio is a master at motivating players, and he has got a Bielsa Ball-esque kind of, well, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna like, maybe they'll score 3 on us, but we're gonna potentially score 4. And I love it. I think it's so entertaining. It reminds me of what Leicester were when they won the title, and I can't get enough of it.
Should be a fun game. It's two teams who aren't in good form necessarily as far as the results are concerned. Brentford had a great start to the season, of course. We all know sort of how that went, and it was fun to watch. But we've seen them kind of fall off to some extent. And I don't know if it's them being tired or just getting used to the Premier League, recognizing that the level is it does get harder as the season goes on. But Brentford, I mean, I like the story. I feel like they're kind of falling off. I don't know if they'll be able to maintain enough to stay up. It's going to be tight for them. They're only 13th. They're 13th in the league right now. But dude, they've lost 4 out of the last. Sorry, this is Watford. They've lost 2 out of the last 5 and only won 1 in the last 5. Their form has gone from being like pretty solid to starting to get pretty patchy. Of course, there's still a lot of teams that are better, that are worse than them, so it's probably not going to be a huge deal. One of them being Watford, who are in 17th, who have only won 1 game in the last 5. So
they might be sitting pretty. They might already have had the edge they needed, that little boost of form.
Yeah, you're right. I think maybe that beginning of the way they started may keep them out of that conversation later in the season.
Could be. I'll tell you who's in trouble. The Wolves go into Man City, who have scored 7 goals on them last season and who are now 5 wins in a row. Ugh. I do not see this changing. I see this being a fairly straightforward day for our friends at Man City. I think the question mark is more, who do they put out? Like, what rotation is going to be involved? Yeah, because it's a bit of a guessing game, especially if
I would add though that Wolves' performance against Liverpool, and sorry for Wolves to have to do that to like those 2 teams in a row. It's difficult because they're not going to have much of the ball, but their performance against Liverpool will give them some sort of sense that from a defensive perspective they can maybe hold off City for less goals than they normally would. But it's pretty obvious.
Can you imagine holding out that long and then having that heartbreak and then having to go do it again, but maybe worse against Man City at Man City?
That's exactly what I mean. Like, poor Wolves, but yeah, and it's an early game, and they're gonna try to get up for that. It's gonna be difficult.
I don't know if they lose before they even step on the pitch. I would forgive them the lack of effort from this one, because it's just so deflating.
Yeah.
Who cannot be putting in a lack of effort are Arsenal versus Southampton. Arsenal looking to end a 2-game skid while Southampton are winless in the last 4. I do not understand why, but Arteta out is trending as of today. And it just seems like this implausible, are you kidding me? Are we doing this again? What are you all about, Arsenal? Is it even Arsenal fans who are starting this trend?
I think it is. I think it is to some extent, but it's usually these crazy Arsenal fans that just have a very difficult time recognizing that there are ebbs and flows of teams, throughout seasons, and they're expecting their team to be at the top the entire time is absurd. But that's Arsenal fans, I think. And having said that, Southampton, not great form, but they've been playing better the last 5 games. You're starting to see a little bit more of the Southampton we saw early in their what's his name's sorry, what's the manager of Southampton, the German fella?
Hasenhüttl?
Hasenhüttl. Yeah, thank you. Hasenhüttl. When he first came in, Southampton looked really good, and then they had some ups and downs. They look a little bit more solid. I think Arsenal at home should beat them, though, probably.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Chelsea looking for a bounce back game, hosting Leeds. Leeds, who are probably going to be a little subject to injuries. It looks like Calvin Phillips may not be available for them in the midfield. They still have a lot of guys out. They've got Bamford coming back, but not looking like he's ready to play anytime soon.
Does Bamford come back and score against his old club?
I don't know. I doubt it. I think
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
The story, right? You got to have the story.
I think Chelsea are really looking to close up shop and get back some defensive form.
Yep.
What is probably most significant about this is that after this game, Leeds have got Manchester City, then they've got Arsenal, and then they got Liverpool on Boxing Day. Their holiday fixture list will not be kind to them. So expect to see Leeds to kind of slip down the standings as a result of this. But otherwise, I think Chelsea are probably the start of a long period of pain for Leeds.
Chelsea's form has been shit, though, man. To be fair, sorry to interrupt, but they've only won 2 in the last 5, 2 draws and a loss in that 5. And I forget the statistic. I was watching Rory, who's a Chelsea fan, on YouTube a couple days ago, and some of the numbers he said about their form, about Chelsea's form in the last 10 games. They haven't been very good. It's actually been kind of shocking when you look at the numbers. Anyway, I just wanted to chuck that in there because I don't think this is going to be easy for Chelsea. I mean, it is at home. That'll help, but. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see, but I think Chelsea have just been playing badly lately. I think this is going to be. They need to step it up. They've had their banana peel that was West Ham. I think they need to smash up Leeds. I think they can. Okay. The Liverpool versus Aston Villa. For those of you who are fans of these kind of storylines, this is the return of the Liverpool son Steven Gerrard and his Aston Villa.
Good storyline there.
To the funness that will be the team that has scored 13 goals in the last 4 games. I would not be looking forward to this if I was an Aston Villa fan. I don't know many Aston Villa fans that are looking forward to this, so let's not dwell on it too much.
I think I would be, but yeah, go on.
Well, you would be, but I don't know, man.
It'd be fun,
maybe. I don't know. I think Liverpool fans are probably looking forward to more.
You got to know you're
going
to get spanked, but at least it's Gerrard against his old club, so there's a storyline there. Yeah, if they do get a result,
you gotta. Ralph will tape his Man United, by which time when he goes to visit Norwich, it will be his 3rd game in charge because he's playing a Champions League game midweek. Norwich are struggling. Everybody knows this. The only thing I can add to this is that I think Man United are going to look for a way to kickstart the offense. Norwich are a great club to play against in that regard. They've allowed 31 goals this season. To your earlier point, though, they do tend to have a real wrestle on possession. They are not necessarily a cakewalk team. This will be interesting to see what Ralph's new setup looks like against a team that is beatable, but also makes you work for retaining possession. Because that is still not what this squad of player. That's not their game. So this will be a really telling one, but I think comfortable in the end for Man United.
Should be.
Brighton hosting Spurs. We talked about this briefly. Brighton have got this ridiculous run of 8 draws in the last 10 games. I think one of the most interesting things about this game would be a couple of things. Brighton severely hit by injuries right now. They just lost Dunk for the season as a center back and have 5 or 6 other regulars who are not available.
So do you know about
the other side? The other side of this, which we could talk about, is that Spurs apparently have potentially 7 players hit by COVID, which is why it says COVID playing a role in the banner. This is a total guessing game because who knows who's going to be available.
There is a chance that this game might get postponed for both teams because Brighton would be happy about it, and Spurs. It depends on the rules and depends on whether the league will allow it. But it has been being discussed because of the amount of players that are available, and they're allowed to do it at a certain point. Of course, that means that that's 2 games in hand we'd have. So yeah, I mean, to think about what would happen in this game is so hard to tell because if we're missing 7 players, 5 of those players would start on at the weekend. So we'll see what pans out there. It's a bit ugly of a situation. I think all teams or many teams have had this happen to them. It's sort of the nature of the world we live in at the moment. So hopefully we can get through it and the players will be healthy. It's
wild though. Like I hate the idea that COVID is going to start playing a factor in these games.
Yeah, it sucks.
Although we should all still be very happy that we have, it's not taken for granted that we even have games.
We still get to watch football.
Yeah. Burnley, who are just shit,
garbage,
hosting West Ham. The question for me here is, can Antonio get back to scoring? He has not scored a goal in the last 6 games. And
what is going on there? It's a strange one.
I think he's been playing well. I just don't think he's been getting the production. And they've had a really difficult run of fixtures.
This should be a good one for him to score against. I mean, Burnley, their form isn't terrible. They haven't lost a lot, and they've played reasonably well. But
you would hope they could find some form here. The question mark with West Ham, I always find, is that they play on Thursdays because of the Europa. So What impact does that have on that squad?
And this is new. This is new for them too. Like they haven't played in Europe in a long time.
Yeah,
so we'll see how they manage it, right?
Apparently, they've been balancing the two tournaments really well. The youth have been stepping up. The fringe players have been stepping up, so that a lot of the Premier League regulars are not getting taxed.
They're starting to get into the harder games, though. They had to play some, some easier games, and they're able to do that. I think once they start to play more difficult games, that'll be a little bit harder to do.
That is true. And then we go to Leicester. The Foxes hosting Newcastle, and what I have to say has got to be a Brendan Rodgers win. If he doesn't win this game, we
smash him up.
We got to start putting him at the top of the rumor mill for losing his job. And I don't know how it's fair that he's avoided the conversation if
I brought him up.
Not, yeah, you have, but like I'm talking more like the public focus of the press and all the Twitter sphere and all that kind of wildness. If he cannot end this skid against Newcastle while hosting Newcastle, I think it's the next day everyone should be talking about it. And I don't like talking about managers getting fired. I just want equal attention across the board for under-delivering managers. And this squad is better than this run of form.
Certainly, I would agree.
If you can't beat Newcastle, I'm the first. I'll start the tweet. I'll start it.
I agree.
Right
I think it has to be discussed and it has to be talked about. I think he's running on, obviously winning a cup last year, and then of course winning the cup at the beginning of the season. And they had played really well. They've been really close to getting to that top four, but just haven't gotten over the line. Maybe that's tiring them out a little bit. Hard to say, but needs to get it done. 100%.
Has to. So the last game of the week, which I will call the something's got to give game. Crystal Palace, with 2 wins at home all season, host Everton, who have had 1 win on the road all season. Something's got to give. One of these two teams has got to get some points on the road or at home.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it?
Probably going to be a draw because we said it like this.
1-1. It's got 1-1 written all over it. I feel like Everton are going to come off a bit of a flyer there from that win, getting that in the last minute. I think that they played much better. I don't know if you watched the game, but much better at the weekend than we've seen from Everton in a long time. Crystal Palace have to do something. Crystal Palace have to do something. They are starting to fall off, and VR is starting to, get under the cosh a little bit. So something's going to happen here. It's going to be I think it'll be a fun game to watch.
I would hope so. There's a lot of little these kind of matchups this week where I'm just like, this could be a little dynamite game. This could be like a little a fire. Brentford Watford. I'm like, this could be fire. This could be a good watch. But those are the week's games. The next set of games happen on a Tuesday. We've got between a Sunday and the Tuesday, we've got 1 day to recover and catch our breath, and then we're right back in it again because it's the holiday fixture period.
We're going to try to squeeze everything in as usual, like we try to do. We'll try to get shows in. Of course, Paul and I are only available tonight because everybody's getting busy over this period of time. We've got more people involved in the show, so hopefully we'll be able to keep it consistent. We'll have a preview and review show, and then of course we had a great show this morning that was put out that JP California did, just a Villa focus. We're going to be doing some focusing on some certain clubs and their situations and certain things in games that people notice. So something that JP did, it was good stuff. So go check that out as well. Anything else to add before we roll out here, Paulie?
No, man, I'm just excited. There's so much to watch.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it is our favorite period of time because we just get to watch a ton of football, and it's the best. It's so much fun. So thank you for watching. If you tuned in live, we appreciate being here. If you're watching this in post, like and subscribe. We really just we're a growing channel. We appreciate your support. Smash it, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a good one.
Bye.
Girl.
This is the North End.